Hey everyone, it's Mace1370, and before we get into the video today, we are going to do a Leaf Pack giveaway. So let's load up the comments, and here we go. Winner, confused and slightly disappointed. I, Kensai, congratulations. I'll be reaching out to you over Discord. I hope you enjoyed the Leaf Pack. Hey everybody, it's Mace1370, and today we are going to do an account review for Kirinni. So before we get into that though, please make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell, and also make sure to check out our Discord below. The account we'll be reviewing today is a free-to-play player. He does his dailies and his weekly labs. He's able to farm Hunt 13 somewhat unreliably, but restricts his farming mostly to buff events. He can do Hell Raid, but he really only does the bosses. I don't think he kills the mini-bosses. I sympathize with that. Killing those mini-bosses is a huge pain in the butt. His goals for this account are to make his Wyvern 13 account more stable, so that's the first thing we'll look at. He wants to make it to Champion Arena. He's in Challenger right now. He also wants to progress in Guild War. So before we dive into the specifics, I think I kind of classify accounts as early game, mid game, or late game. Early game are accounts that are still clearing out that early PvE game content, like the 1010 story, and are starting to get their Hunt 13 teams together. Mid game can farm the hunts pretty reliably, but they haven't fleshed out their PvP characters. And in game, you're pretty much PvP is where you're progressing. So on my quick overview, I'd put this account into mid game, probably early mid game. So let's take a look at the Wyvern team. Kirinni did say that he's able to do Hunt 13, it's just a little unreliable. I did a run, and I can see what he means. It works, but I think if some of your debuff gets resisted, then it results in a failure. He does have a lot of really key important heroes for this hunt. General Purgus and Furious are both excellent. Seaside Bologna is very good as well, and I think he typically uses Alexa in this spot. I think he was just trying out Luna there. So we'll go to the heroes here. First we'll just look at General Purgus because he's pretty simple and straightforward. Whoops, he's a warrior, isn't he? I always think he's a knight. Alright, here's General Purgus. Quite a bit of mola, probably more than is necessary, but it doesn't hurt. So General Purgus, you basically just want to build him really thick, and yeah, he looks pretty thick here. He's on 27 Proof of Valor. Eventually he can probably get that to 30, so that would help the tankiness a teeny bit. But plenty of defense, lots of HP. Increasing these numbers could help a little bit, but I think this is totally sufficient to be able to reliably do the hunt. Let's look at the next component is Furious. That's SSB, we want Furious. Okay, so Furious here, good speed, 229. That's very solid for Wyvern 13. I think you want somewhere north of 200 to be pretty reliable, 210 or so. And then obviously the more the better. The faster Furious cycles, the more reliably the Wyvern will stay debuffed. He has enough effectiveness, and the health and the defense don't matter too terribly much, because if you have enough debuffs, he's going to be attacking the front line. Looks like this is also Molad. Good, so that has the effect chance there. He could potentially go down to +6. Molas are in pretty short supply though, so not sure if that's entirely worth it. I personally would not. I think you can get a reliable run out of Furious without going all the way down there. And we have enough effectiveness, so that part's good. He's using Infinity Basket for Furious here. I think because he said he lacks Song of Stars. Song of Stars would be my preferred artifact, so if he pulls one of those, then that will help because it gives another debuff for Furious. An alternative to Infinity Basket is Miss Confile, and he does have Miss Confile here. This gives a chance to add a defense break on a single attack, so this can be very helpful for a couple reasons. One, it's another debuff, so if your defense break is resisted on Furious's S3, then his S1 has a chance to apply it. I think not Infinity Basket, I'm sorry, I think that Song of Stars is better because it's a different debuff than defense break, so it allows Furious to apply 3 debuffs, which is really strong. So that's how I would handle Furious. I would consider trying Miss Confile. But otherwise, the stats here look great for Wyvern. So let's see, I guess we have SSB here, so we can look at her. So she has pretty high attack and crit damage. You don't need speed on her, and she has plenty of effectiveness. So this SSB will work just fine for Wyvern. She's a little squishy, but again, she shouldn't be getting hit. I would run her on Daydream Joker, which I assume you do. Looks like you have 130 plus copy. I don't know how many copies you have. You want at least 2 of these. Let's see. Artifact. They're very mandatory for this hunt. Okay, good. Yeah, so I see 2 plus 30 copies, so that's all you need. So you probably just swap that out when you use her for that. Otherwise, she's high damage, super squishy though, so you're not using this SSB for PvP or she's just going to pop. I suppose against an AI computer you could probably use her, you know, you could control what hits her and stuff. For things like RTA, you obviously want her much tankier generally. But for the purposes of a Wyvern, I think, you know, she'll do just fine. She has plenty of damage for this hunt. So the last character we need to look at is Alexa. Let's see, Thief. She's a blue thief. So here's Alexa. Crit chance is low, so that's good because Furious is going to be giving her a bunch of crit. Decent attack, and then crit damage is very low in my opinion for Wyvern 13. Daydream Joker scales off of crit damage, and having high crit damage is really going to improve your performance here. The Wyvern's going to die a lot faster. So if I was going to rebuild her, I would essentially just sort by crit damage. And we can just take a look. If we just took Charon's weapon here. Let's see, we have her on attack set, so we don't need to break Seed on necessarily. You're probably not using Soul for much. So we can take that helm. What is this chest? This just has 20 crit damage. It's a decent chest. So I would leave that. That neck only has 55% crit damage, so I'm sure we can do better there. It's attack. So ideally we'd want an attack neck with more crit damage. It does not look like Kirinni has one. He has some of these arena necks. So this neck is 70 crit damage. We can do that, and that gives us the hit set there. For ring, we want attack main. How much crit damage does this have? It doesn't have any crit damage, and we can give up some more crit here. So if we could find a ring with critical hit damage. Let's see, this is an attack ring, and it has more, and you're not using it on anybody. Let's see, we're at 46% effectiveness. You want 65 for Wyvern, ideally. Let's see, do we have any hit set rings with crit damage? So that doesn't have crit damage. This has effectiveness, which could be useful for Wyvern. Okay, well, here you go. This is one right here that you could skill up. It looks like it's locked. This is a ring that you could use with Alexa. We'll see what the boots turn out to be here. The ring right now is pretty subpar for Wyvern, though. Let me think. Yeah, I think so. Keep an eye on that ring. We'll think about that. The alternative is we use that attack ring, this one here. And then for the boots, do we have a hit set boot? Wasn't there an arena hit set boot? Maybe you got it or not. I don't remember. I think there was an arena hit set boot. What if we did speed? Okay, here's an option. You can drop all that attack and you get even more crit chance that way. And, you know, enhancing this up to 90 would help even more. So here's a decent option. And, you know, we have plenty of crit chance here. We can lose even more if we want. What's our effectiveness? It's only 31. That's kind of a bummer. I would maybe roll that ring over here. I guess we don't have any attack speed boots. Yeah, nothing with effectiveness, it looks like. Well, Alexa's debuffs are really not the most important, to be perfectly honest. And having some effectiveness here, I mean, she will land poison occasionally to help stabilize the run. She only really applies her poisons on S2, so she's not doing that very often. So I would play around with either this option or rolling that ring that we found over here that you haven't rolled yet. Oh, not that one. This one. Ideally, it all goes into crit damage. If it doesn't hit a lot of crit damage, then this ring is probably not very useful for you for this Wyvern run. But I would consider doing this. You could potentially put her on an attack main boot and then see if General Purgus pushes her up fast enough, to do damage. But really maximizing that critical hit damage I think will go a long way. So that's what I would do with the Wyvern run. I think it'll help. The other thing that I think might help is, using SSB is decent for debuffs right now. She does put some debuffs on. You can do a different hero instead of SSB. For example, let's see, I think it's the free hero is Misty Chain. I've seen people, I don't use her personally, but I've seen people use her. She's a 3-star, so you don't have to worry about molas, and I'm all about not using molas when you can get away with it in PvE. And I know that she's viable for Wyvern, so she gives debuffs on her S2 here. And I assume when we awaken her, she gets some other extra thing. Let's see. So she puts revive on people. Not the biggest deal. The main thing is the debuffs. So she puts debuffs here, and then you put Syra Ren on her, which is a mage artifact. Do you have a copy? Yes, you have a copy. Okay, so you have Syra Ren. So use Syra Ren, and this will also increase the number of debuffs that she can put on the Wyvern and make the run a lot more stable. She also adds a little bit of healing, so you're really relying on your Alexa to do damage. So you want your Alexa, as crit damage heavy as possible if you're going to do this run. I think it should work though if you use her, Furious, General Purgus, and Alexa, so you could try that. I think that should be enough damage, if you boost up Alexa's crit damage there. Okay, so that's Wyvern. I think those are all the main changes I would make for that. So in terms of Abyss 99, it's been absolutely ages since I've done Abyss 99. But when I looked online, it looked like you can do it with 3 healers and a tank. So like Diane, Tamarin, Angelic Montmorency, and Lilius would be options, and I think you have those. So you have Lilius here. Let's look at her build. So she's on a support build. She's decent speed, decent health, kind of light on the defense category. She has some effectiveness, which can be nice in certain PvP scenarios. And she has some extra crit chance here, but she's not really utilizing it because you have no crit damage. So you could try and swap down some of these stats to make her bulkier and a little faster. That would be better. Or you can, maybe drop a little bit of HP and bulk up your crit and crit damage to make her more of a bruiser. But either way, you can use Lilius. I think she's good for this particular one. She's Molid. You have, I see, Tamarin here. And Tamarin is great because she can be used on absolute garbage gear. The build that you have her on looks pretty fine. I would maybe try to increase her speed a bit just so she turn cycles more. And then obviously more, health and defense are always great. And then other than that, she's good to go. I would absolutely finish mulling her for Abyss. I think that will help you immensely. You want to max this one out, and you want to max this out. You can ignore S1 for PvE. So I think that's what I would do. I would get Tamarin up. I think I saw that you had Diane as well. Okay, so Diane here, I think this is an acceptable build for PvE. She has enough health and HP to survive, reasonable speed to turn cycle. So she can help. I think, try using those, and then Momo. Where'd Momo go? Also, decent Momo PvE build, very thick, has an okay speed to turn cycle. You have an extra rod for her, that's really nice. Her ER is going to be good for PvE. Things aren't really going to be debuffing her too much. For PvP, you're going to want to get this to about 250. Let's see, you do have that on. So I think that those heroes should work well for Abyss 99. And from my understanding, you basically just get to the end and then Archie spam to kill Ruel. So let me know how that goes. Alright, so those are kind of like the just introductory tips on how I would focus on your PvE progression. Overall for PvE, you really want to be farming Wyvern, doing your Hell Raid. That's the main thing you can do. And that's going to be addressed by making some fixes to your Wyvern team and then, allowing you to progress more in Abyss. So on the general topic of gear for your account, I did a little sort here by level, and I see that you have almost no 90 gear. And 90 Gear's been out for a while. I looked at your stash and you don't have a ton of reforged mats either, so I think this really reflects that you aren't farming much. You have so many resources here. I think if you want to progress more, you are totally good to just blow through these Skystones farming. You have a full pity and summons and bookmarks, so and you have all those leaves too. These aren't doing anything to push your account forward, just sitting here. I don't know if it's painful to hear that or not, but just farming more, like not necessarily only during buff events. When I looked at trying to build a few different heroes here, I noticed that your speed gear is generally lacking. So we can look at Arby, for example. He's all on crit gear. He's actually reasonably fast for crit sets. However, his damage is not the greatest. It's probably acceptable. He's on Dreamblade. I think a better Arby build, if you want him on Dreamblade, would be thicker and taking advantage of the fact that he's gonna take chip damage off the Dreamblade and just last a while and be annoying. But I think an even better build is make him faster and put him on Alexa Basket. Really the only realistic way to make him faster is to put him on speed set. So if we look at your speed set options here, it basically just goes away. You have these speed set swords. This one here is actually really nice. This rolled super well, so you could put him on that. Let's see. Like if we just do speed set with like aggressive subs, attack, and we'll just say crit chance. So that's a decent one. So obviously you can't get attack on this. So not a ton of chests with a lot of speed on them, but that's okay. We can maybe make up for it somewhere else. So here we need crit damage. Yeah, and so you just have you have no speed sets with crit damage, but that's fine. He's on, this neck's actually good. So what about rings? Because we're going to need one more speed item here. So we want attack, no speed rings. And then if we do boots, we want speed boots. Let's see what... Okay, so these boots you have them on are good. So we don't necessarily need to use speed boots. Let's see, this has a fair bit of attack, but not too much crit chance. If we do this... so this has all the right subs. It didn't roll very well, unfortunately. Whoops. Also the right subs, but didn't roll great. But I don't know, you could do something like this, and then you're going to need a better ring on crit set. So let's see. I mean, these we can 90, so this will increase his attack. This we can't, this we can't, this we can. So this will get him up to 219. And that with basket I think would be a better build. And then you're basically just looking to get items with more attack and maintaining the crit, as an example. But you saw when we went through here, you have no speed set rings with attack on the main. This doesn't count because it's a 65. Pretty funny though that you got a goblin ring with perfect subs. I'd be salty. So that's one thing I noticed looking at your account, is that you just don't have very much speed gear. And you really need to farm Wyvern to get that. Speed is the best set in the game. So given that, we can go through here and look at some of these heroes. Sirmia, looks like you have her built as a booster. She has over 4k attack. 100% crit chance, that's good. 250 crit damage is probably a little on the low side. I would, I guess, shoot for about 300 if you could. Looks like she's on Destruction set, some of the free stuff probably. If you have Amazon Prime, you might get that bonus next time. You also need to 90 your gear too. Hard to do that without doing hunts. Soul is not built. Lilius we talked about. Kayron, so Kayron you have on basket. I would put the basket on Arby, and then I would put Kayron probably on Elia's knife. I know you have one. I saw it was on... Yeah, you have one there, and I think you have one on Alexa. I think Kayron on knife is good. He has actually, these are pretty decent stats for Kayron. I mean, it's on mostly free gear, but you know, this could even be... I would swap this out to an attack main boot, honestly. I guess since he's on attack set, that might make him too slow. So, and this is another problem. He's on attack set. If you put Kayron on speed set, it gives him so much value, because Kayron's base speed is so ridiculously high that if you put him on speed set, you essentially don't need speed subs on any of the gear, and it can all roll into attack subs. And even doing that, he'll get to like 175 or 180 speed or something. So that's ideally how I like to handle Kayron. But that said, these are pretty decent stats for, you know, free-to-play gear. The free gear that you get. Looks like it all rolled reasonably well. Yeah, what's this? 54, 59? Yeah, so 60 plus. That's good. Pretty decent on this free ring as well. Kayron, I think, can still be a viable hero, you know, on GVG defense. So we'll be talking about that in a second. Here's the Tenebria. So pretty squishy and kind of slow for being on speed set. Decent attack. It looks like you have her built as almost more of a damage dealer, which is interesting. I think that Tenebria can be built that way because, you know, her multipliers are very good. I think I would probably prefer her to be a little faster though, like 210 or 220 or something like that with effectiveness, but you know, if you're doing her as damage, it might not be horrible. We can take a look at the gear here. So yeah, this sword's amazing. This sword should go on RB in my opinion. Let's see, that's 30, let's see, 48, yeah, it's 50, 56 or so stats, that's good. I might have added that incorrectly, I was doing it kind of fast in my head. That's not great. Yeah, this is just, you know, old free gear. Crit chance neck. Rolled a decent amount of crit damage. Oh, this is the free ring. A decent amount went into crit damage. Unfortunately, you dodged crit chance and you hit health and defense a few times. This type of ring can be good on, you know, slower bruisers. And good subs here, but unfortunately, look like it really low rolled. That's really unfortunate. You low rolled on attack and then didn't hit it again. Looks like you probably got a few 3 crit rolls is what happened to get these low numbers. But good subs though. Here's Acades. Acades is the staple for Guild War. You have a lot of rods, that's good. I would not use this EE for Acades. I would use this one, the one that gives you the effect res buff, because her healing output is so high, you don't really need this one. But the effect res buff can be really important, because when you're using her in Guild Wars, if she gets provoked, that can kill it. Because she's just constantly cycling between her heals. You know, you're doing S2 into S3 like every single turn. The F-res you get from that buff is 50, so she go up to 80. So you could really only have to get another like 30 or 40 effect resistance to reasonably resist most provokes. You know, unless the person is building their provoker with like high effectiveness, which is less common these days. Otherwise though, decent Acades, you know, she has a reasonable speed, good health and defense. I'm sure she works just fine for you. But yeah, I would swap that EE on her. And get farming to Wyvern so you can actually 90 some of this gear. Like, you don't have to 90 the bad stuff, but you have some good pieces that deserve 90, I think. Tamarin we talked about. Looks like Luna is just on kind of spare gear for, you know, testing your Wyvern team. Here's Crow. Aureus, I like it on Crow. Good speed, 195. Mine's, I think, super slow at like 180. He does his job. So 195 is plenty good. Decent hit points with 22,000 and pretty solid defense as well. And 129 effect res, which is good. I think, you know, 129, 130 is kind of like the minimum effect res you want on Crow. If you have the luxury of going to 150, that's great. But I really don't think you have to, because the benefit of getting effect resistance, you're kind of like trying to reach 2 thresholds with this. One is you're trying to resist the units that have almost no effectiveness. So like some Spectre Tenebrias, you know, or some FCCs, or some, you know, tanks that have provoke and things like that. Those are the things that you don't want to provoke your Crow or stun your Crow when he has his S3 available. Anybody that builds effectiveness, you're going to need 250 plus ER to resist. So getting to this threshold is nice because the 29 to 50 covers any like random amount of effectiveness they might have, and then the 100 just prevents it from happening. So I think I really like this Effector's build. This is a solid Crow. This is, I think, one of your better built units so far. He'll work well in PvP. He'll work well in PvE as well. Good unit, good build. SSB we kind of talked about. I think she's good for PvE right now. You want to make her way tankier for PvP, but I think you're not quite there using her since you're still using her for PvE right now. In the future, I would transition her to a little bit more of a bulky build for RTA, but in Guild Wars, like, I'm sure this does fine. So whenever I say PvP in my head, I'm thinking RTA. Angelic Montmorency we talked about, Diane as well. Here's Euphine. So good Euphine has plenty of damage here, good crit rate. Which EE, I think her EEs can be kind of flexible. Yeah, use a double slash one. I think this one's pretty common, and on Portrait. So you probably use her for Guild War a lot, I think, and she's good for that. You can use her and Flurry and Alots to take out like the FCC Charles SSB teams, if there are any of those that still exist. So yeah, plenty of damage here on the Euphine, and you could even probably 90 some of this too, if you wanted, just to get even more damage, but I think she probably does plenty. So that's helpful for a nuker. Charles here, looks like you have him built on speed set. Very squishy and kind of low damage too. I think you'd want to get this critical hit damage up more. Charles' base attack is absolutely horrendous. So if you're going to make a compromise, let the attack drop a little bit so you could leave it here and get this crit damage up would be the next priority. Eventually you want this at around 3,000, I think. And then if you can get this to like 275, that would be really nice. So yeah, this Charles, Max Mullid, I assume you use him on Guild War. We'll take a look at that. Solid Sword, the Raid Sword always does well. This is a little low stat item. You could probably replace that. This is not horrible. Looks like you get some pretty decent rolls on this free piece. This ring, 16 speed. I was looking at the crit chance and crit damage, and I was like, this ring rolled horribly. And then I saw the 16 speed. That's nuts. You got 16 speed on a free ring. That's crazy. I don't think I've ever gotten... Let me think. I'm trying to think how many items I've gotten 16 speed on before Reforge, because now everything in my head is post-Reforge numbers. Not very many. Maybe 4 or 5. Let's see here. Speed boots, good subs, some wasted into effect res, but otherwise, fairly decently statted. So yeah, using Charles on a speed build is good. You basically just want to tune his speed, to go in front of your other people so he gives him attack buff. With this Charles, I would maybe try to make him a little tankier, or I would up his damage. But for this balance, I think he won't be offensive enough, and he'll be too squishy, so they can just get rid of him. Flurry, I assume you use her for some Guild War matches, maybe? She has decent effectiveness, but she's pretty slow and not very tanky. Looks like mostly free gear, so I mean, that's why. But you can probably use her for Guild War. See this neck. Flat defense. Justice for All is a reasonable choice for Clury as well. This ring rolled well for a free ring, that's impressive. G-Purge we looked at. Crimson Armin. So Crimson Armin is a good hero to use in GVG. Looks like you have a reasonably tanky and good speed as well. Using another one of these Hellraid swords, and let's see here. I guess this is mostly just for the speed and health. This you could probably improve on. These chests are actually surprisingly decent, because their subs are so nice. And you rolled 13 speed on it, which helps a lot. Here's the neck from Hellraid that you get when you kill the queen. How did yours roll? Ooh, a lot went into attack. Interesting. I have thoughts about this neck. We'll talk about this in a little bit. Okay, this is a decent Carmen, though. Like, this Carmen will work for a lot of Guild War fights. And that's probably where you're using her. She's plus 15, too. That's crazy. So you probably had her before they nerfed her. But yeah, decent Carmen. Here's Dark Corvus. Let's see, his ER is only 54. So you could probably use him in a Guild War setting. And maybe Arena Offense. Kind of low ER though. And I don't know about using Tonfa on him. I mean, I guess it's fine, but I feel like he's going to kill stuff when he soul burns on his S3. So I would use Strat Gauntlet if you have it. Do you have it? Let's see. Strat Gauntlet is, yeah, you do. Strat Gauntlet is nice because it increases his effect resistance quite a bit, and so that'll bump you over the 100 mark. And, you know, swapping out a few pieces like this where you don't need this crit chance and crit damage, like you could easily put another helm on here, you know, and improve him. Just something with effect resistance. You need speed set. So, like, even this helm is probably going to be better. 13 defense. I mean, don't roll this helm, but you see what I mean. You know, that'll get him to the point where he can't be super easily provoked and locked down on the turns you need him. But otherwise, Dark Corvus, I think, is pretty easy to get to a build like this, you know, with some of this free health gear they gave us. It probably works for Guild Wars, but I don't think it's not quite at the level, you know, to be super usable in RTA yet. But it seems like this is kind of like where your account is at, where you're probably getting your teeth into Guild War a bit. RB we talked about. Let's see, here's CDOM. Good crit damage. So you do not need 100% crit chance on CDOM. You can drop that all the way down to 50, you know, because she gives herself the critical hit chance buff. So let's see, she's getting a lot of crit chance from somewhere. Probably just everywhere, I guess. You have her on these crit chance sets too, which is fine, but that just means we can drop her crit chance even more. Oh, I see. The data's changed. Proceeding to the lobby. Whoops. We're on the Europe server here, everyone. So yeah, with that CDOM, I think actually pretty decent stats, but I would definitely try and cut her... Where'd she go? Cut her crit chance way down, because that's just stat that could go into attack. So let's see here. We want attack boots with critical hit damage. What do we got? So this one that Sirmia has, it seems like you're using her for boosting probably. Shoot. SSB has a bunch of crit chance on hers. Well, like hypothetically you could do that. Let's see, we could maybe even just ignore these sets here. So what if we did on this ring? So I know I said we could use this for RB, for example, but you don't need this set bonus because you're so high, so you could use offset pieces here, you know, and increase her damage even more, just as an example. We want critical hit damage. Let's see, that has a bunch of crit chance. And then we want attack. That's only 8%. Shoot. 14. Okay, so this is like 14%, so you could hypothetically use this. You could even maybe use that immunity ring from somebody else and give her immunity. That'd be kind of cheeky. Who had that immunity ring? Oh, it was Cinebria. Yeah, there you go. So getting closer to 350 crit damage. That doesn't have attack on it, unfortunately. Do you have any other Destro gear? How much crit chance does this thing have? 15 crit chance, yeah. Alright. That has crit chance. So it probably can't do better than this helm. That's fine. What about this chest piece? Oof. That's a big oof. It all went into health. So sad. How much crit chance does this have? It's only 7 crit chance. I just want crit damage. Alright, well it doesn't look like we can really improve this too much. Well, either way, so this is, I think, better. Our speed is essentially unchanged, and we gained 36% crit damage. And you're not really using these items on anyone. Even taking this off, it's still an improvement. So I would do that. And try to look for items, with high attack and high crit damage rolls. CDOM is really nice because those types of items are sometimes harder to use on other heroes because they need so much crit. And CDOM loves them. Let me just make sure you didn't have, her self-imprint. Okay, good. Alright, here's Zerato. So Zerato, you're probably using him for PvE content because he's very squishy. Let's see here. I think you have quite a bit of effectiveness on him, which maybe for some PvE bosses you might want this much. Looks like you have him on lifesteal and then crit. If you're using him for PvE, this is probably fine. You would just ideally want more crit damage, I guess, just to balance your damage, but it's probably because you're using this neck. Let's see. How did your lifesteal helm roll? Seems fine. And then, do you have a crit damage neck? Even this is probably fine. You don't need an exactly 100% crit chance, especially for PvE. And he still has a fair bit of effectiveness. Something like this, you can swap, any of these necks in here probably, but it's giving him quite a bit more damage, I think. So don't neglect crit damage, it can help a lot. Let's see, Angelica, you probably don't use her. Okay, and then Holiday Euphine. So that looks like, for the most part, the end of your built units. Hopefully I was able to provide a few useful tips. I think, so going forward with Guild Wars, things I would focus on. Well, let's talk about offense first. I'm trying to think how I want to explain this. So for offense, some heroes I saw in your kit here that are not finished yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you need to finish up Dizzy, and I think she will help you a ton. If you use Dizzy, Garmin, and Acades, that's going to be huge. You already have Dark Corvus for Guild Wars, so he's going to solve a lot of the problems. This is another team comp that can really cheese, quite a bit of teams. And if you happen to lose some number of heroes or whatever, it's nice to have these types of teams that can beat a ton of comps. It lets you get those double wins 3 times in a row in case something goes wrong. So definitely build up Dizzy. And the main thing you're going to want on her is speed sets, so you have to farm Wyvern for that. So I would definitely build her up, and then the other one is Garmin, who you do have down here. I think I locked one for you. Where'd she go? Yeah, so you do have a green Armin. Build her up. Her synergy with Dizzy and Acades is really silly. She offers a ridiculous amount of protection. She can put debuffs on people, and she can stun on her S1, and you can get a exclusive equipment here that increases her stun chance, and it'll be 100% if the enemy is debuffed, which is what Dizzy does and what she does. So essentially you just dump debuffs onto the enemy team, and then you can permanently stun one of them with Garmin. So for example, like a Charles, you don't want him doing Elbrus on you, you just perma-stun him with Garmin, and he's just totally neutralized, while Dizzy slowly kills everybody. She also puts poison on people. It looks like you have to do her awakening for that, but once she is awakened, she'll put poison on them, and that kills as well. So that's an insane comp for Guild Wars. So in terms of progressing in Guild Wars, just to sum it up, you have Dark Corvus, so he's a great unit. You can pair him with things like Crow and another healer. And the other team I would focus on would be Garmin, Dizzy, and Acades. And we talked about how to build those. Dizzy, just fast, tanky, and effectiveness. Okay, so then for Champion Arena, the heroes that I would look at pushing up would be... I guess we didn't talk about A-Lots. He is down here, I think. Yeah. So you can 6-star him when you get around to. I didn't for the longest time. It's really not that big of a deal. Once you start using him for RTAs when you want him 6-starred. But for Arena, I think A-Lots is an important pusher. You can combine him with a cleaver. Like, you have RB, so you could use RB. I guess for that you might want to slow RB down. Just like put pure damage gear on him if you wanted to do that. That would be a potential. I would maybe try to find a different cleaver like BBK or maybe Greenveld or just whoever. Jake Kisei would be ideal. For this guy, you just literally put speed on him. So you have a super fast sword right there. You have the fastest helm on him. Not the fastest chest, but it is speed. So like hypothetically, you could take Carmen's chest. She doesn't need to be 203 for, Guild Wars. It's not that big of a deal. We can just, like, here's a neck. Like, the stats on these items, like, really don't matter for him. Like, ideally, I guess you'd want defensive stats so he's not so squishy, but the main priority is speed. Alright, it does not look like you have any super fast speed rings, unfortunately. So, gonna be hard. This is 16 speed. That's 9, so we lose 7 doing this. So we have to make up. We have to have at least 15 speed to make this worth it. So not really worth it. And then bring this up to 90. This will get him to 248. Probably not quite fast enough for champion. I think you probably want like 260 for champion right now. I think 260, 270, somewhere in there. So focusing on speed gear, I think, will help progress you into champion if you can get him up. You can also use him with speed imprints as well. And you have a bunch of those like Shuri or Surin or whoever. It doesn't really matter. Putting him with a speed imprint can help. But I think with your gear, you can probably get him up into the 250s. So then with the speed imprint, he's in the 260s. So that'll let you cleave some teams. You also have CDOM, so you can put them on, as well. Like Alot's RB CDOM plus a speed imprint could be a good way to get some quick wins on teams. You have Dark Corvus, so that he can be used in arena and he can cheese a lot. You obviously have to play a bunch. The other consideration, a composition that can do well and is very flexible in terms of the number of comps that it can beat is Athletica, Singelica, and Green Vildred. I saw that you have Singelica somewhere in here. I don't think she's built. Yeah, you have her. So you have Sinful Angelica. You don't have Green Vildred, so you'd have to get him. But right now in our Mystic summons,
Rika, a customer. We have a visitor.
I see that you have easily a pity. And, you don't even need to use all of those necessarily to get Faithless Litica. So you could put Alot's gear on her, and then use her with Sinji and Green Vildred and then like one other. You can use Arby on that comp also. I think it's also good. I think it's slightly less good though because Green Vildred is a speed imprint, so that helps push up Flitica. But you could use Arby and then a speed imprint for the 4th. And you'd be amazed at how much stuff that kills. It's pretty impressive. So not going to pull on this. Okay, so that's I think how you can maybe like look towards the future, towards arena. Those are the heroes that I would consider building. I think you mentioned in your waiting room that you had a few. Oops, sorry, that's the shop. In your waiting room that you had a few. A lot of these heroes are good. Like Fire Cecilia is good, Charlotte's good, Valencia is good, Biken's good for Banshee, Vivian good, but these are all like late game PvP units, and I don't think that, like, if you spend resources building these now, I think it's going to slow your overall account progression. Right now, you need to optimize your Wyvern team and literally just farm Wyvern. You can consider, if you want to start branching into another hunt, Azimanic to get immunity gear, because that's going to be really important for RTA. For Azimanic, you have Tamarin, so she's good for that. You have Arbiter Vildred, he's good for that. I'm trying to think who else. I use Blood Moon Haste. You don't have him. I've seen people use Flurry in that. Like if you build her a little tankier, she can dispel the buff off the boss. But Tamarin is like clutch for that. And then AoE DPS like RB. I think are going to work well for you in Azimanic 13. I don't know if ML Crow would be good in that or not. Potentially he could be. And then I think the last thing that we're going to do is, let's see, we're going to look at your Guild War teams, because I realized we kind of went out of order a bit. We talked about offense and then we jumped around to some other topics. So we can look at your Guild War defense here. Have you done your attacks? I'm not sure. Okay, I guess I have to find you. Oh, look at that. First try. Kirinni. Okay, so let's see. Kayron. Zerato Crow. I feel like this would probably just get cleaved. A lot gets cleaved. So I've talked a bit in my Guild War Defense video about building good Guild War teams, and the bottom line is just essentially impossible, but try to maximize RNG where you can. So here you have Charles and Arby on the same team, so this is, I think, probably your stronger round. I would try and pair Charles and Kayron together, maybe. Yeah, Charles and Kayron, and let's see here. I mean, ideally you would use FCC. I don't think you have her, though. But Charles and Kayron together can work really well, because you put Elia's knife on Kayron, Charles goes first, he damages them, and then Kayron follows up with like a huge S3. So they're a lot of pressure together. Arby and Lilius do work. Let me look at your overall teams here. Or, I mean, sorry, your units, just to see if I can get ideas. SSB is unfortunately no longer really viable on defense. So Flurry is a good unit on defense if you build her really fast. She can be super obnoxious, but you're going to have to get a lot more gear to be able to pull that off, I think. You know, she needs to be like 270, 280 or something, and a little tanky. And then she's super annoying. Yeah, I mean, I think given the units that you have here, that's pretty reasonable teams, honestly. I would just maybe consider trying to pair Charles and Kayron together. They're very strong. Not sure who you would swap over onto Arby's team, though. I did see in your waiting room that you have Broman built. Or not built, I'm sorry. I think you do have Broman. I thought I saw Broman somewhere. Wait, yeah, that was Mage. Let's see, let's look on the waiting room. That's a blue. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so you have Broman. So Broman is excellent with RB. It can be like super toxic if you put those two together. You know, Broman, if you build him fast enough, it's very hard for them to outspeed safely. So this is kind of like long-term thinking, but Broman is, I think, maybe who I would consider for that. Okay, I think that wraps it up. I think just in parting, don't be afraid to use your resources. Farm Wyvern. Don't waste your time with Golem and Banshee right now. It's just not worth it for your stage of the game. Those are like very, very late game options. You can start farming Azimanic 13 at some point, but for now I would just stick with Wyvern. You have, I think, a lack of speed gear, and I think Wyvern farming will serve you best. Like when I looked in here, you know, if you sort by speed set, and if we just do attack, you know, like we said, there's almost nothing. If we look at effectiveness, there's a few, but no fast. So this I'd roll just because it had 4 speed on it. Yeah, so no big fast rings there. You could even take off speed, I guess, but yeah, we're sorting. I want to sort by speed. So at 8, yeah. So there are a few, I think, like kind of build defining items, and when you get them, it really lets you build powerful heroes. You know, effectiveness main rings with really high speed. That's one of them. Speed rings with attack, crit damage, crit chance, and speed. That's another one. You know, those really powerful necks with crit damage and then the perfect damage subs also. Effectiveness or effect resistance rings with speed, health, and defense. Another really important one. Speed boots with either perfect DPS subs, perfect tank subs, etc. So, yes, I think keep focusing on Wyvern. Maybe consider farming a little more outside of hunt events. I think that'll be it for now, though. Thanks for watching. Later.